Meeting for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. The first item on the agenda is a presentation. I'd like to turn it over to Mayor McCarthy.
Madam President, thank you. You've been here. There's been a lot of interest in Mohawk Harbor. Focus was put on the potential of an aquatic center there, which didn't quite work out. And so the team has still been exploring options and looking at scenarios that will add value not only to that site but the community as a whole. And with that, I'll turn it over to David Bucco, the CEO of Gillespie, to start with their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Come up here.
Sure. Council President, thank you.
You're welcome. If you use my phone, then the people out there can hear you.
Terrific. Well, welcome.
No, you don't worry about it. They can hear you.
They can hear? I can't even hear me. Those of you who don't know me, members of the City Council, I'm David Bucco, President and CEO of the Gillespie Group. I've been doing this now for 42 years, before most of you were born. What I've got today, I want to introduce members of our team here that can answer questions. First and foremost, David Harris, President of Union College. Joe Ledice, General Manager of the Rivers Casino Resort. My team, my Chief Operating Officer, David All, and the General Counsel and Vice President, Thomas Owens. We appreciate you putting this on the agenda today, and we'll try and keep it as brief or as long as you want it with the inclement weather. What we have here is a proposed project. As you well know, we've developed whether it's Gola Building, MVP Building, Center City, 797 Broadway, and then attacked Mohawk Harbor, and invested a lot of time and effort in there. We still have some vacant land, and we went through evaluating what we wanted to do with it, whether it was apartments, whether it was a hotel, whether it was more office buildings, and then we talked to the Aquatic Center about possibly coming out there and bringing that from Exit 12, where they were going to be in Clifton or Saratoga County, and we evaluated that and looked on the impact on our site. We worked with them to pursue another alternative at the Viaport, and we're playing around with what ideas we could do for this site. We decided we wanted to do something more community-oriented than profit-oriented, believe it or not, for a business to say that. It's unusual. But from that standpoint, what I'd like to do is walk you through the project. I'm going to have Ray Gillen come up and do a little bit before and after, and then we can answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Council President, new members, returning members, welcome. Thank you for having us tonight. Go through a couple of quick slides. Some of you may not remember what the Alco site looked like before. It sat vacant for about 50 years, something the mayor talks about a lot. Didn't pay any taxes because it was in tax foreclosure. There were about 50 jobs there at one company, and many, many people, including some past city leaders who have been in this room recently, prior to 2004, said you could never do anything with this site, and publicly scoffed at it, at me personally, and at the team, when we brought forward a proposal to redevelop the Alco site. And so we glory in the success of this project because there were so many doubters and so many people who said you can't do anything there. And our motto was you can, and we proved that you could do it. In fact, the grand vision for the site prior to 2004 was really scary. They were looking at storing medical waste there. They were looking at storing construction debris there. And they had signed a lease with a tire recycling company. And their plan was to make this site the biggest tire recycling facility in the United States. And I had to threaten to condemn that lease with the powers that we have in Metroplex to stop that project. That was a reality. Imagine 60 acres of waterfront churning out with the fumes, with the dust, with the pollution, with the problems, tire recycling compared to what we have. And what was really troublesome is there was no respect for the Alco legacy. The fact that this facility built 90,000 locomotives, that this facility played a key role in winning World War II. In 1 month during World War II, in one 30-day period, they built 100 tanks and 200 locomotives. They played a critical role in the war effort. And these visions for this site prior to 2004 that were discussed right in this room we're all about medical waste, construction debris, treating the site as a junkyard, not as a sacred ground that we know when it was the outdoor facility. We've had huge success here. Everybody knows the story. We really helped Schenectady have a waterfront, reconnect our city to the waterfront, to our beautiful waterfront. We put up, and we worked with Council President Porterfield when it came to naming the streets. We remember that. We decided we got to memorialize this Alco heritage here. We did, I think, a beautiful job of putting the trail system in place and putting the signs along the trails that mark the various highlights of the Alco history. Of course, we developed the leadership of the Gillespie Group, casino. It's been hugely successful. 2 hotels, 100,000 square feet of technology office space. The new regional headquarters of the SI Group just opened. Apartments, townhomes, restaurants, retail, marina. Everybody goes there summertime to watch the concerts. And we have a new dock that we're working closely with Chris Wallen and the city on, right on the riverfront, so we can pull big touring boats in and have them dock and come in and visit Schenectady. Our former Mayor Stratton, who was a huge supporter of this project, today loves to tell people that the largest and most successful waterfront development along the Erie Canal is in Schenectady, New York. 1,500 jobs on site and growing. The casino pays $4 million a year in property tax. It's the only casino of the 4 licensed casinos in New York State that did not get a pilot, and the property pays full taxes. In addition, the city and the county each get a share of the casino slots revenue. That amounted to $2.6 million last year. That's in addition to the property tax. And of course, the city benefits from sales tax, the community benefits from occupancy tax. Tourism spending has increased dramatically in Schenectady County, and there's been a tremendous amount of development around the harbor. Frankly, we would have not gotten the new train station if it wasn't for Mohawk Harbor and the casino. This project, we feel, is really epitomizes smart growth. And one of the things that Chris Wallen will remember, and the mayor, is that everything was done. When you build these projects, there's more infrastructure work, there's more underground stuff than there is stuff above ground. It's really the base of the project is built first, excuse me. And we put in all new, working with Paul LaFon, the city engineer, all new water and sewer infrastructure was put in place at the developer's expense prior to the project getting built. And that, coupled with what you've all done to improve the sewer system, that $50 million sewer line, which is one of the greatest achievements in infrastructure that I've seen in my career, and I've been doing this a long time, is the reason why the water quality has improved so much, and we have hardly any outflows at all into the river. This used to happen every day in Schenectady. There would be all kinds of municipal waste going right into the river. Well, it doesn't happen anymore. It wasn't an accident. It was planned. It was planned smart growth. It was a joint effort with the city, the Gillespie Group, Metroplex. And what we have here today on site is the #1 regional tourism attraction in the Capital District, according to the Albany Business Review, is Mohawk Harbor. We have almost 2 million people a year visit Schenectady to come to Mohawk Harbor and to the casino and to the other attractions on the site. So it's been a really fun and exciting project, a lot of hard work by a lot of people in this room, and we're very grateful to their assistance, but it's been a big, big success. I want to give it back to Dave at this point to talk about how we put the team together to make it successful.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, this project, and like many others, actually started in this room, but you had every agency involved that I've ever been involved with. You had ESDC, DOH, the Secretary of State's office, you had the county, you had the health department, you had DEC, of course, with the brownfield credits. I think we dotted every I and crossed every T with every agency going. But it showed how much, if everybody worked together, you can really create such an environment that a project is successful. Actually, I was very proud that the governor highlighted this in the state this year and said Mohawk Harbor is the epitome and the poster child for justifying economic development by the state. So that's pretty impressive. She brags about Schenectady when she talks about success, which is terrific. One of the things we came up with was looking at this thing and saying, you know, by the way, our Gillespie projects and the casino project, we pay taxes of over $20 million a year in city and county and schools. So that's a big number. So just, we do our fair share. But the fact is that we wanted to come up with something that we felt was a little bit different, that could benefit the community and benefit other stakeholders. When we looked at the aquatic center, we said, what do we need to bring more people to Schenectady? And they did a really nice job in terms of convincing me that this would bring a lot of people. But when we looked at it and what some of their needs were, these were bringing a lot of kids in swimming and all that stuff, and it was more beneficial to be at the Viaport. And then we started talking to Dr. Harris at Union College about the needs of Union College that had a very, I'll be gentle, obsolete rink. Is that the right way to say it? I was around in 1977, I believe it was, when Achilles Rink was built. So it is a dinosaur. So they were looking for a place to have their home games, stymied by space on campus. We looked at it. There was a need. Albany County Rink is going to be closing probably sometime soon with the expansion of the airport. So we said, let's come up with a project that could benefit, can bring in trade shows, bring in the ability to house Union College men's and women's, to complement what's already out there. Most of these projects are done, in all honesty, by municipalities. I don't know any of them that are not done by municipalities. If you go right across the board, Glens Falls, Albany County, Utica, Rochester, Syracuse, they're all being run by municipalities and owned by municipalities. This is kind of unique. We sort of took a step back and said, how do we get this done by the private sector? It's not easy to do. These things don't make money, they cost money. But we don't want to put the burden on any of the municipalities to do it. So we decided to lay out a plan that maximizes the use, gives a lot of flexibility, creates a facility that can host D1 hockey, men's and women's, and be proud for the community. We can go after other sports. We've talked to people with hockey, basketball, soccer, trade shows. I think we can compete with, and some of the other casinos in the state, particularly Turning Stone, they've increased their event center. And I go down there and I see all these trade shows and conventions that are going to Verona, which I'm originally from Roma, in that area. But we should have them here in the capital region, have them in Schenectady. Those are going to have such a huge impact for our restaurants, for our hotels, for our businesses, and having people put us on the map here. Again, when Union playing here, you've got teams coming in from all over the Northeast. Coming here, seeing this, a brand new facility here, and the rest of the development in Mohawk Harbor is just one that's going to turn people's heads and make people really be aware of what's going on in Schenectady, New York. This is a hodgepodge of financing. We've got a commitment from Carl Hasty and Kathy Hochul. We've got some commitments from Metroplex. Angelo Sadvarva has been supportive of it. From our standpoint, this is not an easy thing to finance. We've got to do pilings. This is an expensive project. So we're looking for the community to step up. Schenectady has not put any money into Mohawk Harbor, a lot of support from the departments, et cetera. So from that standpoint, we would look to just reposition the money that was allocated from the ARPA for the aquatic center to keep it at Mohawk Harbor, because I think this will be really, the payback and the return on investment, we feel, will be dramatic for the city. And if you really look at it, the dollars are even less than 1 year of the casino tax alone.
I'm next. Thank you.
I talked to
No, that's okay. I'm going to wrap it up here, Susan, because we know you have a busy meeting ahead. This new attraction, we believe, will continue to boost tourism spending in Schenectady and Schenectady County. It'll keep Schenectady in the forefront. We want to keep that #1 ranking as far as visitorship and tourism. We want to stay in first place in the capital region and compete with communities all over New York State and the Northeast. Go to Utica, they just built a major new sports complex downtown. major basketball and other activities there over the holidays. Teams from this area going out to Utica. We want to attract that kind of event here. As Dave mentioned, the facility can be used for hockey, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, special events, trade shows, all kinds of uses. So that's one of the benefits of this. The more activity there is at the harbor, the more revenue comes into the city. It's as simple as that. You have to spend a little money to make a little money, but it's certainly proven the case that more activity, more visitors, more spending equals more revenue for the city. So our request tonight respectfully is that we'd ask the council and the mayor to look at keeping the ARPA funding that was allocated for Mohawk Harbor at Mohawk Harbor. It's as simple as that. The money will be used in total for infrastructure. It doesn't go into the building itself. It's going to be used for infrastructure to handle the growth that is needed. Water, sewer, roads, all of the underground work that has to be done, the foundations, all of the work that has to be done to put this new building in place. The new building is being paid for in vast majority of the funding is coming from the Gillespie Group. Dave mentioned we do have some state support. We thank the governor, Speaker Hasty, and Assemblyman Angela Santa Barbara for their help. But what we really need is a commitment by the city so that we can sign that agreement with President Harris and move forward. All of the approvals are in place. We had a very thorough, we went through the secret process, we've been through planning, the zoning board of appeals. We went through your whole process here. It was a very good process. It was very positive, and there were a lot of good detailed discussions. So the project is shovel ready, as we say in our business. All the approvals are in place. We just need this last couple of commitments. Think about it as building for the future. It's an investment by the city in the future of the city. It's infrastructure. We need this to stay competitive with other entertainment venues, other sports complexes that are being developed by other cities in the Northeast and in New York State. And if you think about it, the $2.5 million is less than 1 year's worth of your share of the casino revenue. We're asking you to commit less than 1 year. See, it's a one year commitment with this federal dollars that you have. Invest in this, and it'll pay dividends for years to come. Happy to answer any questions.
I think just a couple of tidbits too. By the way, Dr. Harris is here. Union College is making, if the project happens, a substantial financial commitment and a long-term commitment for 25 years in putting substantial dollars into the project. The casino has donated the land. This is just a mix and match of trying to create something that usually the state will write a check for $1.1 billion for Buffalo Bills maybe, but from that standpoint, this is on a lot smaller scale, but it's one that if we put it all together, I think there's a great probability that this will work and we can be shovel ready and put shovels in the ground soon. So we've got Ray, myself, Dr. Harris, Joe. Any questions from anybody on the floor?
The total cost of the project?
$50 million.
And Ray mentioned that the other, or maybe it was you, I'm sorry, mentioned that the other arenas, et cetera, are owned by municipalities. And who will own this one?
A subsidiary of the Gillespie Group. I really don't want to.
Okay.
It was one of those where I said, who wants to own it? The city, the county, the union, Metroplex, everybody took a step back. I was the only one that didn't move.
I think this is a really important point that the council president's raised, as she usually does, is all the operational risk, profit and loss, expenses, booking, that usually falls on the communities, as it does in Albany at the MVP Arena. It all falls on Albany County. We did not have the county here or anyone else really willing to step up and take that profit and loss responsibility, so the Gillespie Group stepped up and did it. So we're looking for a one-time capital infusion versus an ongoing contribution to the operations of the center. So that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it.
Do you have an idea of the tax revenue we'll generate?
We haven't done a complete economic impact statement because we're trying to make sure that we have a consensus commitment from some of the funding sources, including the city. Dave mentioned the city to date has not put any contribution into the success of Mohawk Harbor, so this is the first time we're asking for that. And, but we believe it'll be a very expansive impact as far as visitors, increasing traffic at the casino, increasing traffic at the hotels. There were a couple announcements behind this that are pending about future investments that may spin off from this arena moving forward. So we capture all of that and put it into an economic model, but we have not completed that at this point.
How many jobs do you think this will provide for? Have an idea?
You know, it's kind of an interesting one. It's a very good question, Joe. I mean, on a permanent basis, you're probably talking 15 to 20 jobs. But if you take a look at like the MVP Center, then downsizing it, for instance, they have 500 jobs that come in, depending on what event you're having. But it's going to be a lot of ups and downs along those lines. But to run the facility, it's not. This is not a job creator. This is designed to bring people in, whether it's increasing the revenue for the city, for occupancy taxes, for sales taxes, I would envision the casino revenue hopefully going up. We got a little challenge. New York City's going to have casinos. We've got to compete with those type of things too, and we've got some other areas. The Indians, for instance, in Verona, keep expanding and trying to cut into our business, which impacts the city and the county and ourselves. But those are the reasons for it, in all honesty. I envision us going after some of the state high school championships and various sports to really bring people there. And this really will create a game changer, because it's a right-sized venue. We're not competing with the MVP arena. That's big. That's 13,000.
So that'll help generate jobs, the restaurants, areas around that.
Oh, absolutely.
But again, there's 1,500 jobs now at the harbor, good paying jobs, and we're 50 before, and we think this is going to continue to grow, and it helps retain jobs as well.
Ms. Williams?
Hi, so thank you for the presentation. Two questions. First of which is, you briefly were talking about the construction timeline. Is there any definite of when you would break ground? And then partly the question is, for the Union College, is there any anticipations of next hockey season, or when is the expectation to meet?
Well, that's a good question, but there's no way I could build it for next hockey season. But
Come on, Dave, we're going to challenge you that.
but it's one.
You want to answer that?
So my joke continues to be, we can do it next season if we switch to roller hockey. I think you can get roller hockey done in time. But I think we're ready to, I mean, it's his project, but ready to go. I said shovel ready.
The goal would be for Union's 2025 inaugural season, which I think would be perfect time-wise, if we put shovel in the ground over the next 30 to 60 days, which is what we'd like to do, Councilman. We'd love to just literally have a groundbreaking and get everybody involved in the thing, and all the stakeholders. And fortunately, we've had a mild winter so far, and we'd be able to do some planning and doing some things there. We've actually sunk a lot of time and effort into it. It's not a done deal yet because we're putting the funding together, but if we can do this, I'm excited about it and starting as quickly as possible.
So just kind of add to that just quickly. The other thing to think about with the union piece, between men's and women's, we have 2 Division I programs. We have about 30 home games a year. I love hockey, I love union hockey, but it's not the greatest fan experience instead of parking in terms of parking, right? But if we have an opportunity for people to come down to Mohawk Harbor, attend the game, easily access, then they're at restaurants and other venues there and around town. So we want them to stay here and spend their dollars in Schenectady, not get in the car and go off to Clifton Park or back home or wherever. So I think there, to the question about jobs and so forth, just from the union hockey part, in addition to everything else, I think there are definitely positive externalities.
And the people around Union will be happy when they don't have to deal with the parking there.
Another question.
Second question was, the building is going to be built with the highest expectations in mind, renovations and continuing to make this be a beautification in the city. Can you speak to just where that funding will be expected to come from?
It's coming from us. It's a very unique structure, and one that we're gambling that the the rest of the impact and the accretion to the rest of the property will provide us the ability to fund those operations. But it's only on us. There's no responsibility for, Union pays their proportionate share of expenses, so they're part of the funding operation as well. But the fact is, there's no city, county, metroplex continuing obligation. Good question.
So just thank you for the presentation, very informative. I guess something I kind of want to talk about was what I liked about the Aquatic Center was the social impact and having the opportunity for young people, especially young people from marginalized communities to, there were some, I guess I would say, preliminary commitments, if you will, around like making sure that people from marginalized communities get to access that space and young people, learn how to swim and things like that. As I'm hearing that this is a multi-use space, it seems like there would be even more opportunity for maybe some youth sports and maybe even some, business internships and things like that. I just would just kind of get, do you have, what's your willingness or really flexibility to make sure that there's kind of, clear community benefit outside of the economic piece?
This is a community asset, first and foremost. It really is. If it was economics, I'd be building apartments tomorrow. We're full in the apartments. So this is one, this is a way for the Gillespie Group to give back, Union to give back, the casino to give back. But if it was isolated to swimming, they're great people at the Aquatic Center. I think that's great. They're gonna do a nice job over there. But this you're gonna be able to do, learn to skate, learn to play hockey, lacrosse, soccer, basketball. Let's say Schenectady High has a big basketball game that they can't fit here. You can move it here. We can do some local stuff that's going to be pretty cool for the people, and having another venue to practice inside. You got to remember, there's a lot of daytime non-use. So from that standpoint, and then non-hockey season too. I mean, you've got. Let's just say we do summer night in Schenectady. It rains, we could do summer night over there too. So you could have some other events that this is a community asset in all honesty. Graduations for community college, for instance, they've been looking for venues for a long time. So some of them, or even a rain date if you get rained out at the campus. So there's so many different things that we can do. But I also really think this is something that's going to draw more people. Kids are going to be able to have access to some sports and access to things. The people watching the hockey games. I mean, it's tough to get to. No matter what, I've tried a couple of times. It's not easy to get there. So it's also going to bring up Union College's stature as well as the city's. But I really do think that we can really go after some of these regional events that are important. Now, you see when some of the stuff that's up in Glens Falls, they got a lot of those things. I mean, we're a little better located, if you want my opinion.
Mr. Torres?
Go ahead. I just wanted one final point, if you don't mind. Todd Garofalo couldn't be here tonight. He's in Cancun, boo, discover Schenectady, but he's already looking at events that he could attract here, and there's a lot of interest. I mean, regional tournaments. There's so much. Youth sports has become an economic development program. So to attract them here, you get the hotel rooms, etc. So Todd is not here tonight, but he's already trying to book events here.
Mr. Toro had a question.
Sorry.
I think it would be a great compliment to our already famous A Diamond and Central Park and the collegiate sports that are happening over there, thanks to the college and
the tennis as well.
Yes, and the promoters that fill the A Diamond every year. So thank you.
John, you had a question?
Yeah. Can you briefly touch on the seating and the parking to go with the seating?
Sure. Well, there is plenty of parking on site. We do have access to parking across the street as well, on the corner of Knott and Maxon. And actually we own Maxon as well. We've done the parking study, so there's enough to accommodate. And really, even the only challenge is, and I know Joe and Dave can help me out on that one, the only really challenge you would probably have on parking is on a probably Friday night a little bit. It's going to be because the casino's busy and Union College hockey games are busy. Union College Saturday hockey games are at 4 o'clock.
Increasingly.
So from that standpoint, but we balanced it off. If you go on site, and remember, our office parking, nobody parks there at nighttime. So there's a lot of parking on site. We've got all the specifics. The capacity for the arena is, David All, if you want.
As far as seats go, the capacity for the arena is 2,250 seats for hockey events, and then up to 3,600 for other events when there's seats on the floor. But, you know, it's 2,250 is primarily what we're looking at.
And we sized this to make it still very comfortable, not a big, you don't want to build one, probably couldn't afford it, build a any bit bigger, but from that standpoint, you want to still maintain the atmosphere that Achilles Ring has.
Just to get back to this whole community piece, I mean, part of what excites me about this is having Union really be engaged with the community. And I think it's a win for Union, it's a win for Schenectady. Some of you may be aware that we have this program we've run for the last few years now on Friday evenings in the fall. Our field hockey team runs a program for local youth. Show up with sneakers, that's all you need. They provide a stick, and the women are really excited to give you a free clinic in field hockey from little kids up through 8th grade or so. When it comes to the question about how we engage more broadly in the community, last year, Union College hosted an event talking about diversity in ice hockey. There are fewer than 5 African-American coaches in all of Division I ice hockey. 2 of them work at Union College. And we've talked about the fact that we've partnered with Will Rivas in the past and others to try and figure out how we take this game that so many people love at Union and help a broader group of folks learn to enjoy it, and even to get out on skates and, you know, skate around a little, play a little, plenty of padding and helmets and whatnot. So we think this allows us to do even more of those kinds of activities we've been doing at Union College.
I think it's important. We work with the school district and community groups to determine how we maximize it, whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, or whether it's the Y, or whether it's the schools. I mean, the sky's the limit. This is something you don't want to say if you build it, they will come. But this is going to be a great asset, and a lot of communities don't have this.
So we had a document from ESDC, which they kind of laid out what the funding was. And so they laid it, and based on this, all of the funding is there. So, but there was one part called community company equity. So I guess that's huge. It doesn't show though that, which is 33 million, but it doesn't show at all what's put in by Union College, which I understand is 20 million. So you're all aware of the document, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't, it breaks it down, but based on this, which all the council members did get, it shows that the entire cost is covered, but but you're saying tonight that there's still a funding gap. So if you could just, I'm just going based on what they sent me. So if you could just, you know,
The funding gap got increased by over $2 million by pilings alone that we just found out we have to deal with. So we're going to end up, if the project happens, and we've not decided right now whether the project's happening or not. We need these sources of funding. We will make a decision pretty quickly, one way or the other. But right now, the funding by Union, by the state, by ourselves is significant, but it doesn't close the gap.
okay. I'm just going on the document.
I understand. Unfortunately, numbers are moving every time you bid things out.
We have a place, it's a very good question, Council President. I used to work at ESD, so did David All, and you have to balance the sources and uses in a document like this. The public hearing is going to be Friday on the state's grant. And they have us down as in Metroplex, I believe, for and that's a placeholder that we put in hoping that we would secure this additional funding. So that's where the money shows up. Because in a document like this, the expenses have to mirror the sources. Sources and uses are the kind of the foundation of these grant documents. But the state understands exactly where we are with this project. They're very supportive of it. The governor's supportive. Speaker Hasey's supportive. Angela Santa Barbara's done a spectacular job in advocating for this money. It's such a welcome change for Schenectady to have an aggressive member of the majority in the New York State Assembly, where for so many decades we did not, and we weren't able to compete for funding like this. So it's something that the state is extremely supportive, and they're aware of all of our funding challenges and opportunities at this point, because we disclose everything to the state.
So what shows up as Metroplex is really your, which is 2 million.
It's our placeholder for the.
For what's the
Yes.
hopeful from the city. So will there be a pilot at all with this project?
We're looking at a pilot, yes, that takes advantage of the brownfield program, that the site is in the brownfield program, and we have yet to determine the exact amount of funding that'll be available from that, but something we're looking at. But it's a community center. We're not looking for this to be a huge property taxpayer. That's not what it's about. It's about bringing people in. The casino pays a huge property tax. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Rush Street and Rivers. This site in total pays an enormous amount of property taxes, and we've done a great job on that. This building is not, as a community center, as an event center, that they're not, the MVP arena is not paying taxes. These arenas are not big property tax generators. Their value is from visitation, hotel stays, sales tax, and other revenue. And again, if some of the folks who come here go over to the casino and their revenue increases, the city gets a direct benefit from that.
Ms. Patrick?
I just want to say, I think that the project certainly has that economic benefit, and I think it would be fantastic and a fantastic complement to what already exists at Mohawk Harbor, which obviously has been such a great boon for our city of Schenectady, and we can't, I just think it's fantastic that we have that. But I think the connection with the college is fantastic. I think the connection in terms of the school district, but also with younger, with kids in general, that it will expose our youth to a great deal of other activities that might be available to them. But I'm really thrilled about what I think will be the impact on the restaurants and the rest of the other types of tourism attractions that we have here in Schenectady. So it just continues to raise us higher and higher in terms of our place in the state. So I appreciate the work that you put in your office.
I think this really gives, a very good comment, I think this really gives another arrow in the quiver of Discover Schenectady, really,
Right.
to go after a lot of those people that are going to other places that we could have come here to our city, because then they're going to see other things happening here. They're just not going to an
That's right.
event center. They just don't go to Union College hockey games. They're going to go to all sorts of places. And Todd we have is a great guy, great asset, and he's totally excited about how we can compete throughout the state. Any other questions?
I do want to just point out one thing, just so that everybody knows, that when we talked about the ARPA funding in terms of the aquatic center, it was through an application process. So I just want everybody to be aware that that is how we definitely allocated that money initially. So.
Okay.
I think, and again, you won't find another bigger supporter than the aquatic center than Dave and I. We're the ones who recruited them to the Alco site or the Harbor site, and we're working very, very hard to make their vision a reality at Viewport. What we're asking is that funding, which is really set aside for the harbor to do a sports, entertainment, event center related to aquatics, that it be allocated to this project, which has multi-dimensional uses, and that's our respectful request. Thank you.
If I can just ask one question. So you've gone to the planning commission, gone through the approval process. Some of your word choice was that it's like this is not 100% done. What does it take to close the deal so that we can move forward with it?
We need, one, we have a public hearing with the state on Friday.
Friday.
We need a vote whenever you can do it here from the city. Union's deal is contingent upon these funding sources. And the county is, we're having a resolution and meeting with the county for them to provide support as well.
So is it, okay, so I'm just going by the document. So 5 million at the county is.
The county is yet to act on that.
Oh, okay.
So the county is.
That's on the list.
We're working closely with the county, and again, as they host the Tourism Bureau and have been extremely supportive. We're supportive of the Aquatic Center, continue to be supportive of the Aquatic Center, get the fundamental role that sports tourism plays, so we're working with the county.
And ESDC grant is 10 million?
That's this money that was provided in the state budget by
Okay.
the governor, Speaker Hasty, and Assemblyman in Santa Barbara.
So again, my question comes back to, I don't see here, Union College is not listed here at all.
It's in the equity section.
Oh, okay, you're including them there,
Yes.
okay, under company equity,
Yeah.
okay.
The thing to keep in mind, we're not an owner, we're a tenant. I think we're effectively a lead tenant, and so that's guaranteed, that's part of that money that you see in there.
Oh, okay,
So Union's commitment is 25 years for use, and they're prepaid for a lot of this to help fund the project.
okay. So their 20 million pays for all of that, what you just explained. So the
Yes.
other, okay. And the other 13 million then, is that the Gillespie Group?
Yes, actually, it's 15 and 5, but we can get into the nuances.
Okay.
They're paid some over time, but yes.
All right. Thank you.
And again, because
Good
it's not
questions.
municipally owned, any construction risk, any overage, is the responsibility of the Gillespie Group. The way this is structured, which is very unique.
I mean, it really...
Dave wants to leave at this point.
No, it
So
was...
that story about Mohawk Harbor is Dave closed on the property on April Fool's Day, on April 1st. And early on, there were a lot of challenges in the project. And he used to always say to me, I don't know if we made the right decision. And we all harken back to April Fool's Day, but it turned out to be a wonderful project for the community. And again, please don't forget that activity level prior to 2004, which is a long time ago, I know, and people say, great, look forward, don't look back, but it needs to be said. Tire recycling. Imagine that beautiful site. Imagine that Alco legacy being lost. Imagine the fumes, the dust. Imagine the negative impact on Union College from having the world's largest, or the country's largest tire recycling facility at their front door, separating them from the river. It would have been a disaster. And when we started working on Mohawk Harbor, we had the can't-do attitude prior to 2004. We were told this will never happen, this cannot happen, and we proved them wrong. And this project is another key step in moving the ball forward. We cannot stand still, we have to move the ball forward, or the puck in this case.
You know, the easiest thing for us to do is not do this project. This is probably, I'm old, you guys are a lot younger than me. But the fact is that if you look at what we're doing for Schenectady and investments, whether it was the investment in MVP, when we first started the thing back when it jump-started, Ray convincing us to do Center City, which I'm not sure why or how, but we did that. A movie theater, 797 Broadway, Golub's headquarters. There's so many things that we did, and this is one way, in all honesty, to give back. I mean, it is. I mean, we can, those apartments, our apartments are full. We can fill up apartments on the other side, but this is one that I think to tie Union College more into the community. When we first came here, before David was here, Union College was an island. Now they're part of our community. He's done a nice job in terms of integrating it in. And I really believe that. I think it's one that it's just an opportunity that we can create, and it just puts a bow on creating a nice entertainment district.
Mr. Farley?
So would it be pretty accurate to say that, as amazing as it sounds, and certainly there's a level of excitement in the room, that without the city council support for this project, it likely doesn't happen? Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? So I just want to, you did say that the city did not give any money towards the casino, any financial, but I just have to say that the staff did a lot of work down there. I know our engineer was really involved, I just got to say it.
Some of them right here, as a matter of fact. Did I see Chris Wallen here somewhere?
Yes.
Anthony and...
I'll just say this is the first time we've asked for a financial commitment of any kind in doing this project, which I think is a significant point, but we cannot say enough good work. And when I talked about the sewer improvements, how transformational that whole project is, it doesn't get enough recognition.
And the Chris Wallen traffic circle.
That's right, award-winning infrastructure improvements that were made outside the gate. Really won the state transportation award that year for the Knott Street rail overpass and the traffic circle.
But the other thing, as you said earlier, though, think about it. When we first came, we had raw sewage because you had infiltration, stormwater, it was mixed with sewage going into the Mohawk River. We saw it. It is probably one of the cleaner sections of the river now. And it is working with the city and working with Paul Fahn. And you're right. This could not have been done without a can-do attitude on the part of the city. Really, very, very pleased. You won't get anything right from police chief, fire chief, every department head. It was a lot of hard work, but you know what? They're proud too. And they're proud. When we drive through there and see all those employees, I mean, holy cow, there's a lot of people's lives we impacted, whether it's at Mohawk Harbor or the casino. I mean, with the amount of Schenectady employees, they've got raises very significant over the past years, and they're doing very well. You don't find many people leaving the employment of the casino now.
Yes, Mr. Williams has another question.
And I just, in kind with your sentiment about pride, I had a conversation with County Legislator Omar McGill, who recounted that his uncles were integral in building the Empire Plaza in Albany. And as we talk about similar projects where we can have opportunities for members of this community to be very involved in these types of development efforts, I would love to see some of our local programs such as Seed Center, but other just better suited small businesses with opportunities to truly put their sweat and tears into these types of items so that they can see generationally their impact in the community.
Absolutely. The Seed Center, I know, Joe, we hire a lot of people with the Seed Center, right?
We do.
So we work with them, but even on the construction side, absolutely. I mean, some of this is going to be very specialized, of course, but from that standpoint, we use a lot of local vendors. I mean, even the general contractor that we would pick is locally here. The Chase is headquartered right in Schenectady with their regional office, Schenectady Hardware. Those are people that have been involved in this project from the start, so you're absolutely right.
There will be major MWB goals in the contracts.
Thank you.
That was my question.
Thank
So
you.
this is,
Yeah.
you looking at my paper?
Yeah.
I'm gonna write smaller.
I can't read that.
Because I know the state has a 30% commitment for MWB.
And that's in the $10 million for sure.
Yes.
Oh, so it's only 30% of the 10 million?
It'll be in other parts of the funding streams as well.
Okay, that's it. I didn't have any other questions.
We really thank you for taking the time. It's exciting, and Dr. Harris, Joe, and the team, thank you again for taking the time.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ray, I think that's yours, right? Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, okay. That's Ray at the end. What? Yes, I know. You're welcome. Take care.
Just a friendly reminder.
I'll let them clear the room. Bye-bye, thank you. Thank you. Before we, what's the next one? Next on the agenda is finance.
Thank you. I would like to call the Finance Committee to order. We have one item, and that is change in the CSEA contract language. Mr. David.
Thank you. All right, I got an easy one for you tonight here. This is just an MOU between the City of Schenectady and CSEA. Just clarifying language in Section 9 and Section 3 regarding the call-outs, emergency call-outs for a specific group of CSEA employees.
Any questions?
It's just a substitution of language as far as.
There's no change, it's just clarification in language.
And this has to do with per diem or call?
It's for call-outs and emergency call-outs. It's a 3-hour window, specifically for code enforcement officers.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
So since there's a clarification, then something must have come up too prompt, that there was some misunderstanding of it. So
I
can you
believe
just-
there was a scenario a few years ago. There was miscommunication between the department and payroll on what should be exactly paid out. And the code enforcement officer wasn't understanding what was actually written in the agreement. So we made clarification language and different scenarios so they could bridge that gap of understanding.
So in the past, did we pay out based on the misunderstanding of the language?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I would have to take a look at our records, but.
And is anyone, go ahead, Mayor.
The evolution of this is, it used to be a 4-hour call-out. In the contract, we modified that a number of years back to go to a 3-hour call-out. The employee is at time and a half at that point. So we gained some savings on it, and most times their call-out can be adequately handled within a 3-hour window. What was happening is when there are multiple call-outs, so that if another event happens during that 3-hour window, there was a question of whether they were treating it as a separate call-out and would get time and a half for another 3 hours, or they were still on call from the original call-out. And so this clarifies that, so that anything that happens when they're called in that 3-hour window, that's the time they get. So they might handle 1 call, they might handle 2 calls, could handle 3 calls. After that, they'd go home or they're back on their own time in another call-out that would reestablish another 3-hour window.
So prior to the clarification, were we paying it out like every time it got called out?
There were times when, I will say, the accounting was not as accurate as it maybe should have been, or may have been interpreted to different individuals' benefit, where, yes, the payouts were not consistent with what I've just articulated.
Okay. And is there any individual that's expecting now to be reimbursed at the old way before we change this?
No, this will clarify it and move forward. Everybody's on the same page.
Okay. And when was the actual document signed?
It's like September of 2023, September 25.
Yep, 9/25/2023.
Okay. I guess I'm just wondering why it's just coming to council action now.
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
in regards to that.
Some of it had to go back to there was a question of whether we could do an MOU without going back to the full membership. They wanted to take it back to the full membership so that, in fact, it did do that, and then it came back, and so now it's coming to the council.
Okay, but it's still the original signature date of September 2020.
We have, the terms and conditions of employment since that time in whatever, September, in fact, a little bit before that, have been consistent with what's outlined in the agreement.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions.
Any other questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Any other business before finance? May I have a motion? Second, all in favor? Aye, thank you.
I'd like to call to order city development and planning. We have 12 items on the agenda, and I know that we have people here for the Central Park sidewalk, so Mr. Moudverin, do you want to call that out of order so folks can go home?
If you don't mind, I would
I don't have a
appreciate it.
problem
Yeah,
with that.
thank you.
I hope everyone else, we do have people, you want to stay for the whole meeting? Fine, okay. You are number 8, so you can just stay right there. You want to stay? No, you. Okay, so, Mr. Moudverin?
Yeah, thank you.
Number 8 on the agenda?
Thank you for putting this on the agenda. I'm going to ask Mr. Walling to give us an update on the Central Park sidewalk project and where we are at this point in time, so that the resident there can get an update.
Hello. So where we are with this project right now is that we have a petition in, and we have looked at preliminary design options for the project. So to compare it, what we wanted to do was, we just successfully completed a similar project on North College Street in the Stockade. That project was approximately 630 feet long with 1,260 feet of curb, and it cost $425,000, with some of those costs being assessed back to them at the rate of $55 a foot. For Central Parkway, it is a unique street, being much longer, twice as long, wider with a median with the lights down the middle. So the length we actually is almost exactly 2 times that. So costing wise, we looked and we're estimating that the project will cost between $1 and $1.2 million for a street reconstruction. We have several options that we've been discussing internally. The options were all from essentially put it back the way it is. The street is 2 lanes with a center median, but does not technically have on-street parking. People attempt to park on-street, but most of the time they park on the sidewalks. and we're trying to avoid having people park on the sidewalks. So we have options of essentially do nothing, put it back the way it is, and post it for no parking. Residents on one side have driveways, and on the other side have an alleyway with driveways in the back. And then we have several options, one of which is parking on one side and one of which is parking on both sides. But as we explore our options, our costs and the impact of the neighborhood expand pretty significantly. So right now we have no actions other than we have some preliminary ideas, and the thought was then to discuss those costs and the impact that would be at this meeting, and then possibly call a meeting with the residents to discuss what they would be in favor of going forward.
Okay. Any questions?
So you mentioned 1.5 million, 1.2 million, and that's the high side
Yes, that's the high side if we were to do essentially a complete street reconstruction.
with parking.
With parking.
Adjusting the island.
Yes, it would be curbs, parking, lighting, landscaping. It would be essentially a complete street reconstruction. Haven't done one of those in my tenure here yet, the residential area. It would be almost akin to what we've been doing on Erie Boulevard, where the entire street would be reconstructed. Right now, the lanes are 15 feet, so a typical travel lane is 11 feet, and then we want an 8-foot on-street parking lane for 19 feet total. We have 15 feet, which leaves 4 feet. If someone were to park, really now people are kind of smart about it. If they park where a turnaround is, try to get around it. But if you park where the curbing is, you're an impediment, you're blocked. So that's why people are parking on the sidewalk. You know, there are options out there that could be discussed, but they weren't really pushed too far down the road, which is for possibly budget savings, you could eliminate the island altogether. And then if you eliminate the island, then you have that 10 feet to use, but the character of the street significantly changes. And then there are, you know, we have quite a few things, but the street is significantly different. I know that for most people looking at it, you would think it's very similar to Wright and DeCamp, but Wright and DeCamp already had the width to allow for parking, so we essentially put it back. There was no right-of-way impacts, there were no impacts to residents. One of the things that we do have prepared for our meeting, when it's called, is, you know, impacts to the public. There would be several impacts to trees. Essentially all full-grown trees within 5 feet of the existing sidewalk would have to be removed. Most trees within the median would be removed, so the street would be kind of starting from scratch. Not to say we wouldn't put landscaping in, but you do not replace a fully mature 60-foot tree with a tree. You replace it with a new tree, so the impact would be that. The other thing, just talking about, you know, positives and negatives as we would go forward, is if the lanes get wider. I drove the street in the last week 6 times. I did not see a vehicle on the street at any point when I drove. An 18-foot lane with no one parked on it is very wide. So it will be also on us to, you know, try to harbor the speed issues that we always have, because the lanes will be wider and the trees will be gone, and trees, tall trees, help create that narrowing effect. So there's a lot of, you know, positives and negatives that we'd have to discuss with the residents on the street before moving forward, I think.
So do you have an estimate on keeping it the same way? Like the same? Like
If we were to put it right back,
the street?
if we were to put it right back the way it is, I would say essentially a little south of $1 million. We probably have around a $250,000 savings to put it back the way it is. You have to remember, if we expand too, what we're doing is we're building a road where there wasn't a road, so we have to do a full construction of a road where we're talking about sub-base, base, binder, all the way up to expand that. Similarly, if the island moves, the island is grass, we'll have to go down. You know, you go down 24 inches to build up a road bed so that you have a consistent surface to run traffic on.
So,
Mr. Furman?
so if I'm understanding this correctly, it's roughly $1 million to put it back to what it was, that really didn't meet maybe the needs of the people in the neighborhood, but for $1.2 million, you can greatly change and increase the...
Yeah, that's what, Fred, that's what we're, yeah. Fred, Fred is, he's our engineer on the project. He did North College with us, so he put some of this together. So yeah, $250,000, give or take, would give us more, but the impact would be noticeable.
And would it take, so if, rather than just kind of like fixing what's there, how much longer would it take to do and to make all the changes that you've described?
It would probably a factor of weeks. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not, as complex as say the Central Park Pool project or the event center. It's flat work. If we were allowed to give them the site, close the road to one side and allow them to work, they probably work pretty expediently. It wouldn't be the same amount, but 3 weeks, maybe only 3 weeks longer. Granite curb is available, so that's good. The lighting is a little tricky because we probably have to replace the lighting, which gets involved with, now we're metering the lights because we probably take ownership of the lights and doing a little bit, so maybe putting a different kind of light in there, like a park light. So it's not as simple as, it seems like every time we do a sidewalk program, they're getting more complex, not less complex. I haven't figured that out yet because there's not that many streets like this, but this is a complex project. It's also expensive, for a neighborhood street, and the impacts are going to be large to the residents, because what we would like to do, what we're recommending, is that we would expand essentially to the west, the side where the alley is, because it's flat. So that we would essentially hold the side with the hill and expand west, so the neighbors on the west side with the alley would be impacted a little bit more than the neighbors on the other side, because we think that that would be the best for the economy of scale, so that we're not cutting into the hill and affecting, there's a retaining wall and stairs and some things on the east side of the roadway. But these are all just things that we've looked at. We have a lot of information, and we're just waiting on a call to have a public meeting with the residents, which we actually have not had a format to do. We've done that via Zoom, and I think that Mr. Mudaber, you called that together before.
Yeah, we can do one of that, and to get them informed.
Did you want to, are you planning on doing Zoom again though? Are you going to try to?
We can do either Zoom or whatever is preferred. I will reach out to the residents, and what is preferred, we'll do in person or Zoom. Whatever the choice.
I would suggest an in-person meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it would be better if people are a lot of elderly, they're having a hard time with this, and it's complicated for a lot of the residents.
So we'll arrange, since you were the point person, we'll arrange an in-person meeting and schedule some timeline and provide it to the staff and the city council and the administration.
Mr. Williams, do you have a question?
Yes, so putting on my resident frequent driver in Schenectady hat on, it's nothing more depressing than seeing these efforts put forth in repaying streets similar to Erie Boulevard, and if you wouldn't mind just educating, and then seeing the utility companies or seeing sections of the roads torn up, and then having to kind of do so use the proper language, just piecemealing, patchwork job, which sort of kind of like negates the whole intent of redoing it. Is there any instance where that is going to be an issue with this?
On this project, Central Parkway has been completed. The Parkway streets have been. We try to have coordinations with National Grid, coordination meeting at the beginning of every year. The issue becomes, it's just, they have so many miles, they do about 8 miles. So they essentially put as many miles of pipe in as we pave streets, and as much as that we like to overlap and plan, there is always an outlier. And so some of the commercial streets, for example, this is one of the things that we're looking at is, I know that Upper Union Street Business District is becoming worn, and that sooner than later we will be getting complaints about paving that. So that is an area that National Grid has not yet been in. So we are working with National Grid to get in there and do it so that they can disrupt it, and then we can come in and make it whole. And that is what we try to do, but we are not successful in every turn. And then sometimes there was a issue on Albany Street where they actually had to put in a second main because the first main didn't adequately supply the neighborhood with gas. There was an issue on DeCamp where I was there, and we ran out of gas, and they had to put an emergency gas line in to connect to service more gas. So there are things that come up, and we do get a lot of complaints about National Grid, specifically right up behind me here on Knott Terrace, where we did a paving job to have them come and do a reinforcement there. And I guess not to, complain about it more, but these are, an $8 million project that requires coordination, and I have a staff of 2. Now, if I had a full-time road inspector that was tasked with managing grid, maybe that gains us, a little bit of leverage, but right now, the responsibility of managing this is shared between myself, codes, signals, Metroplex sometimes gets involved with complaints. We've had complaints from county legislators. We all kind of team to try to supervise that, because there's not one person that's tasked with it. And that is a difficulty, because for them, National Grid has about as many people in this room managing that project. And we don't. So it is challenging, but and we hear about it. But for Central Parkway, no, we're not going to allow them to go in and rip. We'll make sure that the gas mains are done.
And if it seemed as if I was I truly appreciate the work in your office.
No, it's okay. It pains me just as much, but you get numb to it after 10 years of ripping the road apart.
I just want to add to that, when we allocated $1 million last year, I think we had set aside $55 per linear feet. I think at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, we set aside $55 per linear feet for basic sidewalk, not for a project that is so complex like Central Parkway. So we might want to reconsider that portion of either $55 or up it a little, because of the complex. This project being so complex, with including island, removing trees, expanding it. If we were to go the full design, $1.2 million.
Correct.
Well, we might want to.
That would be the prerogative of the city council. I'm
just throwing that on the table because
I'm comfortable in the $55 a foot for the residents.
Yes, Ms. Patrick.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I guess my understanding when we did that, I thought that was, we were trying to keep it at the $55 for our residents regardless of the project. But I think, and I would support staying at the $55. I mean, I think we had a lot of discussions at that point around this issue. But I guess when there is a public meeting, if that's not going to be the case, I think we would need to have, ducks in a row by the time of that public meeting, because I just don't want to see us going back to what happened when first we started. I mean, I wasn't on the council when we first started the sidewalk program, but I certainly remember the issues that we had when, folks expected one amount of money that they were going to be charged, and then they got charged a different amount of money. So I think the idea that we were trying to standardize, I think is still really valid.
Yeah, no, point taken. I just want to add to that, because we only allocated $1 million towards sidewalk. So if we were to do Central Parkway, that's $1.5. So we would have to reallocate more money towards the sidewalk program there for Central Parkway only, which exceed our allocation of $1 million set aside. So that's why I want to bring that to us to brainstorm it.
And we've done the numbers, so the estimate is let's say we went, and this is also from a residential perspective, you're paying the same no matter what option. So there is no consequence of picking whatever option, because the 55 is the 55.
That's what I think, right.
Okay, so, and then that translates to roughly the entire block putting forward, roughly $175,000 would be the assessment on the 1.2 million. So then the gap is a little over $1 million.
So, if we were to stick with the 55, we will have to reallocate additional funding.
Right.
So, I want to bring that to the table so we are aware of that if we decide to move on that fee. So, in terms of timeline, Mr. Wally,
I'm ready.
you ready?
I'm ready. Yep.
Ready?
Schedule the meeting and we'll be there.
Yeah.
So, if I may, so let me just understand the 1 million. If you leave it at that, that means no reconstruction. You'll just put it back the way it is.
No, it's a reconstruction, but it goes back the way, it actually would probably be a little narrower. It would
Okay.
be within the footprint, but no parking.
but that's the issue. The parking is an issue for the residents on my side. The cars are getting hit, we're getting tickets. There's large vehicles that come up and down. Oh, no, we
So, okay, so, yeah, but that's the kind of stuff, thank you, those are good points to bring up. That's why they're gonna have a public meeting, because that's when
That's the issue.
that discussion will take place,
Right.
and you can decide what is best for the, yeah, and there'll be other people obviously there at the meeting to voice their
Yeah,
concerns.
and then I'm sure the public can come, not just Central
Oh,
Parkway.
yeah.
And then, before we even do anything with these positions, I believe there's a public hearing.
That's true.
So that there's a public hearing, so that other residents, once it's decided, can advocate if they think that this is an investment, and, you know, it's a process.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We just want,
we'll try to schedule the in-person meeting, and then we'll move forward from there, and then schedule the public hearing and all the necessary
right.
items that need to be put in place to move forward with this project.
So we won't make decisions, the council will not make decisions without public input, so I don't want that to be a concern for you.
What's our timeline with that? Because the last meeting we had was last year.
Okay, so Mr. Munavari is going to reach out, and they're gonna set a meeting.
We'll try to schedule something as fast as we can.
Okay.
Before
Yes.
somebody gets killed on the block, because when I'm in Nicola's house, that sidewalk
Can she
is
take the
really bad.
microphone?
To walk out in
Can
the
she get the
street.
microphone so people can hear?
You can't hear?
Around the
All
corner.
right, all right, no, because then we
We're
don't want to go.
going to do it as best as we can. As Mr. Wally mentioned, he's ready to go. We'll just need input from the resident, and then the council need to do,
Right,
we need to get our action in order and move forward.
right, okay.
So we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Wallen.
Wallen. All right. So thank you for indulging, so you guys get home safely. So the first item on the agenda is Cocoa House, ARPA. Ms. Carver?
Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. The Department of Development and Planning received a request from the Cocoa House asking that the City Council revisit their presentation that was presented in September of 2023, asking for a change in use of fund. Cocoa House is asking that the $500,000 ARPA fund allocated to them be used for salary and fringe. They provided an updated layout on how those funds would support salaries. I believe there are 6 employees, one of them including the executive director. In addition to that, they are also asking for the leverage fund requirement included in the resolution be removed to move forward with contract.
All right, so as Ms. Carver laid out, they initially were asking for $500,000 to do some construction work. However, because it took so long for their allocation, they were able to get that funding other places. And so now they're asking that what we initially allocated towards that would now be moved over to use for salaries, right? All right, when the last time they were there, and everyone, did you give this to everyone in terms of the layout of the salaries? Do we have this here?
No.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that they came the last time when they asked for the allocation of the salary was that the $100,000 be, all of it be towards the salary for the executive director. And then the other salaries, they didn't really lay out how they were going to pay that. And what I asked at that time was if you could if there was a way that there could, in addition to the money that if we would allocate, that there would be other funding to go towards that. So not all of the funding, our funding went towards just the executive director's salary. And I was told at the time that that would happen. I haven't seen that. So I'm not opposed to reallocating towards salaries, but I think the structure of it needs to be taken into consideration of how we structure it. Ms. Patrick?
I think, well, don't you mean, I mean, they have provided us with how they would allocate the funding, so, I mean, I'm in favor of this. I want to point out that it's not, I mean, the idea is that, you remember that we're trying to do an expansion of their program offerings. So it's not just about, it is about salary, I get that, but that's what they're spending money, but they're doing it because they want to expand the options that they're providing to the youth that they serve. So I just want to make sure we get that on the record here. But I guess if we are to move forward with this, I don't want to, sort of, I don't know a better word to use, but I don't think we need to micromanage what they do internally. I don't know. I'm satisfied with the way that they have laid it out here on this chart that they provided.
Well, this is new. It wasn't laid out like this before.
Oh, no, okay, I guess I thought you just were.
No, this was
I thought
originally.
you were looking for more information.
No, originally, it was laid out that the entire amount that would come from ARPA would go only towards the executive director's salary. Right, so what I was saying is if we're going to provide that salary, then it needs, and you're planning on bringing in all these other positions that don't currently exist, that amount that we allocate should be spread amongst all of those positions, so those people actually, we make sure that there's salary for when they're hired.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that was my question. So that was my only concern, that we spread it out. This answers that in my opinion.
Does the ARPA fund allow to draw down 3 years from now for salaries?
It has to be allocated by the end of 2024 this year,
Okay.
and then it has to be spent by the end of 2026. So we're already in 2024, and by the time they execute contracts, it may not even be the full 500,000, just because they're already, I don't know that we can really, I know that we cannot, I should say, pay retroactively. So it would be after the contract is signed. Yes, Mr. Toro.
What has Cocoa House been doing prior to this for salaries?
They got other grants, and let me just say, they're getting into, I think it's 27 years now, let me just be clear, that Mr. Rivas was not there for 27 years, but since he's taken over, it stayed open consistently, and, he's, the Community Foundation, I know, has been a part of it, so they look for money in order to continue their program to run.
And how will they continue after 2026?
I would say that what they did probably before 2024 is to continue looking for grants to continue the program, as many nonprofits in our city do.
Absolutely. And what about,
I'm sorry?
how many students is he facilitating after school? Did he come here and speak something about?
Yes, he did in September.
The ratio of it has gone down after, I kind of forgot what he said, if you can just help me with that. The amount of students that are coming after school has decreased.
He may have alluded to something during COVID, which everybody saw a decrease in all programs,
Right. But there's another program that's happening in the school district where most of the students are going after school, and his has decreased a little bit.
I'm not familiar with that, Mr. Farley.
Yeah, so I think, in just my best understanding of what the request is to, again, to fund the salaries for program expansion, and I think that with program expansion, then you expand your capacity to serve of the students that are attending Cocoa House. And I think also, like, there are a lot of different variables as to why program attendance go increase or decrease, but I think that doesn't necessarily change the expectation for robust programming for youth, and so I think that can. I appreciate your input. My best understanding, kind of what he was saying, was that COVID did impact, as it did all, but looking to increase, looking to increase capacity to serve kids in the community.
Mr. Barron.
So the funding here that is breaking out here, the back here, is that the full funding in terms of the salary allocation here?
Yes.
So they're asking us to readjust the allocation, the ARPA allocation, and to fund these staffing position full-time.
2 full-time and 4 part-time.
Part-time, yes. So the question to follow up with that is, if we were, I'm just saying this, if we were not to fund this, where would they receive the funding from?
Well, in the letter of support and in the presentation that they presented, if I recall correctly, his ask was for him, if he gets this funding, he can become a full-time employee. Currently, he's not full-time, so that he could go after the funds. for sustainability after the funding. And then the letter of support, they said between now and 2027, that they would have fully replenished the ARPA funds to move forward.
Mr. Farley?
So, I would just kind of maybe reiterate, I'd probably say some variation of this in the past, especially when we're dealing with, smaller nonprofits. A lot of times the smaller nonprofits don't have the capacity, they don't have a development department, they don't have some of the things that these real larger, big box, if you will, nonprofits have. So sometimes our line of questioning for them is a little different than what it is for the larger nonprofits, because they don't have that. They don't have that capacity. And I think that what my understanding is that this money would allow for staff to do some growing capacity in order to sustain. It's kind of one of those things that you can't go after grant money. As we all know, grant money is extremely competitive process when you're competing with, a couple of nonprofits who have full development departments, and people who are making just the payroll in the development department is exceeding this ask probably, twofold sometimes. So it's just something that we should keep in mind.
Ms. Patrick?
Well, I'm going to say that a similar statement, which is, I think that part of this is that if he grows the capacity, if the organization is able to offer more programming, it is going to make them more attractive to private funders. So I think that was what he was trying to present to us. I mean, he'd have 3 years to he's a pretty successful fundraiser, if you ask me, based on my experience as a fundraiser. I think we've all watched this organization grow by leaps and bounds over the last several years, and a lot of that has to do with he's able to show the success that he, I think that's key to development, is being able to prove the outcomes that you're getting. And so he's been able to pretty much sustain his fundraising because he's able to show what he accomplishes for the youth that he is serving. So I think that if he is able to hire, in particular, I think these part-time people, but if he really is able to expand his program offerings, I think that's just going to add to the level of outcomes that he's going to be able to continue to show to private funders. I mean, he gets a tremendous amount of support from many of our prominent private foundations, including the Schenectady Foundation, and others in the region. So I think that's how I would answer that. That's how I see the sustainability happening after the ARPA funding. And I guess just to quote Mr. Gillen from earlier, but you do have to spend money to make money, even from a nonprofit development standpoint. I can't tell you how many times I argued with bosses about that particular piece, that you do have to kind of step up to the plate if you want to really grow as a nonprofit.
And I think, go ahead, Mr. Toro.
For Alex, I know we've had issues before with how we can spend ARPA money. I mean, when we wanted to put it in our budget. Is this acceptable, Alex? Okay.
Yes.
My question. But
Yes.
And again, I want to just reiterate that they asked for funding to use on a particular thing, and because the funding wasn't forthcoming, they went ahead to do it anyway. And I don't know if any of you have been there, but the work that they wanted to do actually got done. And so they're therefore asking that, now we still support the efforts that are being done there in the community, in a much needed community, that we just use it in a different way. So, and my only concern, like I said, was that it just not all go to one salary, that we spread it out to all the positions that they said they want to hire. Anybody else? So at this point in time, we would, the motion would be we'd move to take away the match, is what they're asking, and to also to reallocate this to use for salary as outlined in the document they've submitted to us.
So,
No, Mr. Rivera?
I'm going to pass on this.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, all right, BCNI?
Yes.
She's going to be up here for a while.
Our department received a request from Better Community Neighborhoods in regards to their Hamilton Hill infill ARPA funding. They are asking the city council to revisit their request to lower the leveraged amount of funds needed to move forward with contract. In the resolution, they had an 18-to-1 match, and they are looking to do a 1-to-1 match. And they are ready to move forward with the project if that is to be.
As you remember, Shane Barney, who is the new executive director, came before us a couple cycles ago to explain the project, saying they were really ready to go. When it came time to drop the contract, we know that what happened was the previous executive director made a 18-to-1 match for the ARPA funds that we were willing to allocate, which is pretty significant, actually. I'm surprised that that was offered. But revisiting it, and they really to get this project moved forward, 18-to-1 is just, it's difficult to manage.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Oh, never heard of it, okay. So he's just asking that the match now be 1-to-1?
1-to-1, and the approval of the use of ARPA funds is needed for them to move forward with their New York State home ARPA application.
Okay, and the amount of their ARPA funds, they were getting 500,000, is it 500,000, right?
Yes, 500,000.
Okay.
And I just want to point out that they do have that
Yes.
one match
Mhm.
secured.
They already have that secured, they just need us to move on this. Are you scratching? Okay. So the ask is to change.
To change the leverage fund amount from 8.5 million to 500,000.
Any discussion about that? Anyone? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
All's in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, and now item number 3 is going to be a follow-up on ARPA.
Follow up on ARPA.
Okay.
We are almost there. We are 95% in contract with all approved organizations with the exception of those who have requested extension. Those extensions are as follows. And our department is actively working with these organizations already to make sure that they have what they need by the time their extension expires. We have Cocoa House, BC&I, Electric City Co-op, and YWCA extensions will be expiring on March 12, 2024. The only contract that is we have not executed is the Habitat for Humanity contract, and that is because Habitat still has additional funding sources spread all around that they have been unsuccessful with spending down at this time. So once we can get them with a strategy to spend down the money, we'll move forward with executing the ARPA contract. But our staff is working with them actively right now, and this is really surrounding the New York State home funding that they have. So they have a lot of money kind of sitting on the table right now. The Cocoa House, which just did the presentation, the 12th, BC&I will be moving forward before their extension is up. The Electric City Co-op, the department has met with them to see what their plans are and making sure that we just give them all the necessary tools that they need to present if they need another extension or just be prepared to move forward after March 12th. Electric City Co-op.
And the YW?
And YWCA. YWCA has an extension, and then they requested additional ARPA funding. We did put a request into the executive director to get that request formally in writing. So once I get that request, I'll be able to do a legislative request for it.
Right. Did you mention Bethesda? I'm sorry if I missed it.
Bethesda, no, I didn't get to Bethesda.
I'm sorry.
Bethesda is in contract. You ready?
Did you mention Miracle Craig? Yeah, I missed it, or do you have any update?
I didn't get there yet, Mr.
Oh, I thought you were up.
I just was talking about the ones who had the extension. They had an extension, but with.
Okay, she's gonna get to it.
Miracle on Craig will not be moving forward. They have put in a formal request to transfer title back to the city of Schenectady. So our department is working with law to ensure that that happens properly.
Mary, did you have anything you want to say about that? Okay.
At this point, we're working with them, we'll take title back. And I shouldn't say we'll take title, say a use agreement, so that we'll clear that up. And then Alex is looking at other scenarios, and we'll try and see what the future of that building is.
We have an appointment to go look in. We're meeting with Rosa and we're meeting with Tad, Maurice, myself, and Rodney Garner. We're going to view the properties and the additional properties that are associated with Miracle on Grace sometime next week.
Okay. Ms. Patrick?
So can you remind me, Alex, the funding was like 2.5 million.
1.25.
What was it?
1.25.
1.25. Okay. So that money would come back to us in terms of...
Well, we're not sure yet. We're going to have to, so let me just state that part of this project, and I think we all knew that the community was really looking for a community center. And there have been, and they're not formal conversations, so there's only so much that I can talk about. But there's other groups that was working with MOC that didn't have, like, they weren't totally formalized yet, kind of found out about this afterwards. And so that group thought they were moving ahead. So more conversations will have to take place in terms of, does that group take it over, and what does it look like with the city working? And I'm not sure what that looks like, so it's very informal conversations right now.
The Schenectady Kiwanis House declined their funding. They had $10,000 in ARPA funds that was allocated, and we sent over the contract, and they declined and said they would not like to move forward.
They were building benches, remember? Picnic benches, picnic tables.
I think they did it.
I don't know.
And lastly, we received a formal request from the Bethesda House, who is currently in contract. They received funding towards the Cara House. They are looking for an additional $200,000 in ARPA funding to pay some outstanding bills associated with the Cara House.
So, go ahead, Ms. Williams.
I think they're probably going to ask the same question, retro payments.
A big part?
Retro payments.
No.
Oh, so I guess my question is, I think we ran into a similar scenario with the property. Is that appropriate use?
I haven't seen the dates of the invoices yet, but their contract is still valid.
Okay.
So if it has happened within the last 12 months, it would be acceptable use.
Thank you.
So there's some other things that, some emails that we've received regarding Bethesda House. So I think, and since they're under contract, any discussion about that, I would want to do an executive session. So I would suggest that we just discuss the rest of it in executive session. Yes, Mr. Turo.
Thank you. Alex, you spoke about someone wanting a second extension. I was under the assumption that from March, the end of March, no more extensions, correct? We kind of put, because, did we?
Are you asking about this particular one?
Not that particular one.
I think I said it for Electric City Co-op, just because I met with them and they threw that in the air, so I'm prematurely saying that, Councilwoman.
Because I think we discussed that, Council, that you know, we had to put an end date on extensions. So, right? Am I right?
I believe we did say that, because we have to get the money allocated.
Right.
And we can't keep kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think we spoke on that in terms of extension, not to allow any more extension. Give them adequate time, the last extension, and then think about moving the funding into the city projects. Yes.
You have more?
I have none.
Okay, so we'll take up Bethesda House, Cara/Cara House discussion in executive session. Okay. And so, Mr. Wallins, coming back. Item number 4.
Okay, police station server room, HVAC chiller replacement. So what we have in the police station, we have both the computer server room and what is affectionately known as the CBER room, which is the city's camera surveillance room. The rooms are air conditioning independently of the rest of the building. They have separate units. The 2 units that service them are well past their service life. 1 unit has been down for over a year, and its parts are being used to keep the other unit running. It's just a precarious position we don't want to have. So we have a bid to put a new, called a crack unit, and then a split unit. Crack is a computer room specific unit. We had 2 bids. and the low bid was from R&B Mechanical, who does a lot of work with the city. The bid was actually well within our budget, and we're comfortable with awarding it.
So do we already have, this money is already?
Yes, this
in our
is
budget?
from capital, I believe.
From capital budget?
Yes, this is capital money. We set aside money for capital improvements in our 2023 capital budget. So
Okay,
it's
perfect.
coming out of there.
All right, any questions?
I'll move it.
That's second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And item number 5?
Item number 5 is court agreement, correct?
Yes, yep. It's 5-year term from 2023 to 2028.
Yep, so as you're aware, the city now houses the state courts. So courts are no longer run by the city, they're run by the state under the unified court system. We have to sign a 5-year revolving agreement with them. Through that agreement, they agreed to pay us for the maintenance and upkeep of the facilities, utility costs, things like that, essentially as a tenant and us as the landlord. This 5-year agreement is up, and then during this 5-year agreement, we do 1-year reviews and quarterly reports all throughout the year. So I work with the chief clerk at the city doing quarterly reports, and I work with their Office of Administrative Management once a year to do the end of year reports. So.
Any questions?
How does, I know that like the court system may say, we want you to build another additional courtroom, and it's typically it's up to the locality to fund it. You know, you need to expand, you need another, it's a requirement, you need another judge. Having this agreement, how do we anticipate that, or, anticipate the potential tax increase that would do that? Because I have had some experience at the county where this is no longer an appropriate facility, you need to do a new courtroom. Any way to kind of, in that agreement, is any kind of language about that? If they say, add another courtroom, how that would be funded?
No, it doesn't address that specifically.
Okay.
We are in, conversations with them about a hearing room, and they are, talking to us about the hearing room and the court facilities always. We have a unique court situation here at the city where we have 2 buildings, which is unique to some, but this is more of an operating agreement for the 5 years, and it just kind of goes back to our reimbursement, which is in the appendices in the back.
Other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And item number 6, the revokable permit for Whistling Kettle.
Yep, so what we'd like to do with this one is essentially amend the revocable permit, which has already been issued. This is very simple. They're going to be screening off their recessed outdoor space as they get a lot of vagrancy in that area. And one of the things is the door is kind of right on the right of way because of the property line. So we thought the easiest thing is just to make sure the door is added to the revocable permit. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is just amend it so it includes the retractable awnings and the overhangs and now the patio door.
So where the patio is currently, where you can just kind of go in and sit without anything, they're not opening a door, now they're going to actually put in a door.
It's going to be like a big screened, almost like a screened transparent wall, and then there's going to be a screened door.
Oh, okay.
So the issue is at night they put all the tables in there, but it was open, but people would go into this space, a secluded area, and then they were having issues with that. So they like to be able to keep people out of the space that's out of sight.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? No, I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And so item number 7 is revocable permit for the Rabbit Lounge.
Right down the street, the Rabbit Lounge is a rebranded, it's going to be a salon. I had to ask what the Rabbit Lounge was because I was intrigued. But it is for a sign, an existing signpost.
So what is the Rabbit Lounge?
I believe it's a beauty salon
Oh.
that is taking place in the existing. There was a former beauty salon there, and they're just going under like new management or new operating.
Just so for historic information, there was another facility named the Rabbit Lounge in Schenectady, and it was not a beauty salon.
Oh.
So.
I thought it might be like a cat cafe, where you go and the rabbits are on you.
Not exactly. So, any questions?
No,
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All's in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wallen. So we already did the update for the sidewalk. So the next is a ceremonial resolution recognizing Black History Month. And actually, this will be Mr. Farley. Something we do every year for Black History Month. So just looking for, Mr. Farley, you want to speak to that? I'm sorry.
Sure. Something we do every year, celebrating Black History Month, just looking to have another resolution recognizing Black History Month and all the contributions made by people of color in the city of Schenectady and nationwide. And also not just recognizing that Black history is American history, and the way we acknowledge our history will inform our future. So very important resolution. Just looking for support for that.
Move it.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The remainder are property sales? Yes. So for that, we would go into executive session. And also, we would also continue discussing the Bethesda House during that session, just to make sure that everyone understands that it's being done. So ask for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go into executive session. The public would have to leave, and